What? The man was in a state of confusion after being slapped. He held his cheek, looking lost. The other men exchanged looks of shock. No one had expected that outburst from Nelson, who 1 second ago was screaming about slashing the visitors. And the next second, Nelson appeared frightened, as though he saw ghosts. What was going on? What are you doing there? Hurry up and get me the check. Nelson gave the frozen man a nervous kick. Okay. The man hurriedly stumbled his way back to the office. He had no clue about the situation, but one thing was for sure: Lord Horst was fearful. During the wait, Nelson went up to Dustin and squeezed an apologetic smile. Sir Rhys, when did you arrive? You should have informed me earlier, so I could send someone to pick you up. Sir Rhys. Dahlia and Julie were stunned by Nelson's obsequious behavior. They looked at each other in disbelief. Why would the cruel Lord Horst of the Flame Dragon Gang act in such a humble manner after meeting Dustin? Nelson Horst, it's only fair that you pay off the debts of the Flame Dragon Gang. Understood. Dustin scolded Nelson. The latter nodded fervently as he wiped the sweat off his forehead. Right, Sir Rhys, you're right. I was acting without thinking just now. I promise I won't do that again. That'd better be the case. By the way, you were a hooligan just now. You should apologize to the debtor. Dustin warned him. Chairman Nicholson, I'm very sorry. I was rude to you just now, and I can only hope that you show me grace and forgive me this time. Nelson plastered a smile on his face as he continuously bowed and apologized. However, his behavior came unexpectedly for Dahlia. She had mentally prepared herself to fight a gangster, but never had she expected the fierce-looking Lord Horst to turn into a tame animal this soon. She wasn't the only one who received a great shock. To be honest, Julie was at a loss for words as well. She questioned if Nelson Horst was still the same man as the notorious and formidable Lord Horst she knew. Lord Horst, I'm only here to collect the debts. Please forgive me if I offended you in any way. Dahlia politely responded to him. Don't say that. It's all my fault for owing you the payments in the first place. Nelson was rather surprised and moved by her manners. Anyone could tell that Dustin and Dahlia shared an unusual relationship. Nelson revered and feared his new leader at the same time. Lord Horst, the money's here. The man returned in a hurry, carrying a check in his hand. Nelson wiped the sweat off his forehead and carefully handed Dahlia the check. He said with much respect, Chairman Nicholson, this is the amount I owed you. Please take a look. 80 million. When she checked the figures, she was slightly surprised at the extra money. Lord Horst, did you accidentally pay me more? No, I didn't. I've owed you the money for a while now. Just see it as interest payments. Nelson smiled at her. Dahlia was speechless. This was just perplexing and troubling. She was grateful and lucky enough to have recovered the 70 million in debt, but now, she received 10 million more. Dahlia, since it's for the interest payment, you should accept it, Dustin chimed in. That's right. Chairman Nicholson, please accept the check, so I can sleep well tonight. Nelson had a pleading look on his face. Well, okay then. Thank you, Lord Horst, for your generosity and help. No longer insisting, Dahlia pocketed the check. She could tell that Dustin was the sole reason behind Nelson's humble attitude, and she couldn't help but wonder if Dustin was telling the truth earlier today. Nelson Horst, keep in mind what you said today. After warning Nelson once again, Dustin left with Dahlia and Julie. Have a good day, Sir Rhys. Nelson bowed deeply to the trio as they left. Have a good day, Sir Rhys. The members of the Flame Dragon Gang mimicked Nelson and chanted loudly. Hank had run down to the first floor from his viewing point when he figured that something was off. He confronted Nelson. Lord Horst, what's wrong? Why did you pay her back? Nelson had promised to teach Dahlia a lesson, but upon the meeting, Nelson obediently paid the debts without a word of protest. Since when were the Flame Dragon Gang such losers? Oh, why you fucking ask? Nelson turned around and glowered as he hissed, did you know who's the guy beside that lady just now? Wasn't he just a bodyguard? What's so special about that? Hank frowned, confused by Nelson's reaction. Just a bodyguard? After the initial shock, Nelson smacked Hank hard on the back of his head and rebuked, "You blind fuckwit. That's our new gang leader." "What? Your new gang leader?" Hank was stunned. "Son of a bitch. I almost died because of you. Don't you ever show up in front of me. Now, get lost." Incandescent with rage, Nelson flung the Rolex watch in Hank's face. Hank was simmering with anger but dared not talk back. So, he left with his tail between his legs. Never had he expected Dahlia to be acquainted with a powerful figure like Dustin. "Dustin, are you really the new leader of the Flame Dragon Gang?" Unable to suppress her curiosity, Dahlia blurted out the question. She was still in disbelief, but she figured out that something was not quite right judging from Nelson's behavior. "You saw it with your own eyes just now. How could that be fake?" Dustin shrugged his shoulders. "I mean, how did you become the leader?" She gave him a funny look. "I was acknowledged for my outstanding moral integrity. Did you seriously think I fought my way to the position?" He asked her with a straight face. "Is that true?" She shot him a doubtful glance. He gave her a half-smile. "What do you think?" "Whatever. I don't care how you ended up as the leader, but I only have one thing to ask of you: do not stir trouble." She stared at him with a serious face. "Don't worry. I won't hurt others as long as they don't hurt me. From now on, the Flame Dragon Gang will not commit any sort of crime," he vowed. "That's good to hear that." She let out a relieved sigh. Before this, she was genuinely worried that Dustin had been led astray and committed crimes like murder or robbery. "Dustin Rhys, I couldn't tell that you were related to the Flame Dragon Gang," Julie suddenly spoke up. "But you shouldn't get ahead of yourself. The gang isn't made up of good guys, and they will get themselves into trouble sooner or later. I advise you to get back on the right path before you get arrested and jailed for some crime. You don't have to worry about that. Just take care of yourself," he replied blandly. "Me. You little ingrate." Julie pouted. Even though she held Dustin in higher regard, he was still far behind Terrence. "All right, now stop the bickering. We have settled the first challenge, but that still leaves us with the second challenge, the business deal with Brooks Corporation." Dahlia steered the conversation. "Dahlia, I can't promise to be of help in most cases, but I can totally help you out on this one." Julie patted her chest confidently. "What's your plan?" Dahlia was curious to know. "Have you forgotten that my Terrence is a manager at the Brooks Corporation? If he's willing to speak up for us, there's no deal we can't seal." Julie sounded proud. "Is that so?" Dahlia's eyes lit up with joy. "Of course." Julie put on a smug smile. Given Terrence's connections, he'll only need to put in a good word, and it's a done deal. Hearing that, Dustin smiled wryly and gave them a shake of the head. "Oh, you shouldn't get ahead of yourself, Julie. Terrence can't even save his own ass in that company. How is he going to help Dahlia?"